Welcome to Deep Thought, living outside the norm. You know what? It's kind of deep in a way. I mean, yeah, people say, yeah, you got some people, they don't have that regular life. Because you know how the general narrative is, you know, get up, get a 9-to-5 job, or even if in business, just a standard type of business, some retail business, something like that. You know, get a mate. You know, that's still expected. That's still part of the collective consciousness. Get a mate, have 2.3 children. Oh man, have some children, get a home, everything of that nature. But throughout history, there's always been people who kind of lived outside of that. Indeed, you could say they're outside of the matrix. They outside the mainstream. And I don't mean just in terms of just, you know, where they living or something, but in terms of how they live, how they manage their lives, how they go from day to day. And you got a lot of people like that. They're not doing that standard job or living that standard lifestyle. Like a common one is people who might be homeless. I mean, that's an obvious one, but then you have some people almost by choice who might be living a certain way, living out their cars, living out their vans, something like that. Like they purposely living it, not something temporary, not where they want to be a part of the main society, but they just outside of it in many ways. It could be how they dress. I mean, that's a basic one, but it could be what they do for a living. You have a lot of people who make their money, and it's not the usual stuff. It's not the usual stuff. Indeed, there's something called System D. System D is, I talked about it before on my business channel, but it's the informal economy out here. You know, the black market. I mean, that's the common part of the, you know, informal economy. It could be vendors, it could be somebody shining shoes on the streets or something. But they're living. They're living. Indeed, I read something a few times over the years about people who might just do some begging and stuff, but that's how they make their money. Like where I live, I always see somebody with a sign up saying, hey, I need help. I need help. And they'll go to the cars and, you know, try to get some money out of them. And in the Baltimore area, you had those squeegee kids who were making their money by, you know, they spray stuff on somebody's window, clean it and all of that, and then, you know, hopefully they get some money. Somebody did that to me one time. I told them to get away from the car. But you got some people living like that. And it's not just a temporary thing, but they really are on something else. You know, they're not living the norm. And it could be for myriad reasons. Like I would say to people who live outside of the mainstream, for some it's just choice. Some can't follow along. And it's not necessarily could be considered like a negative personality trait or anything. They just don't fit in and they're good with it. That's just a reality. Like, I'll use a homeless example again. There are some people who consciously do that. They get just enough. They'll find like a spot. Shoot, you even maybe in some tunnels, some passageways, under bridges across the country. You have some people who just say, look, this is my spot. Just don't want to deal with the rest. They figure out how to do it. I mean, I've known some young men who've actually slept in their cars, who actually live that way. And who actually, they eke out an existence that way. I actually personally know some people who, how they live, how they do stuff is just totally outside the mainstream. You know, they, you know, might have a different type of spiritual practice. The things they do, not a 9-to-5. You can really call them entrepreneurial in a way, because how they, you know, sustain themselves is not like what people would think of as quote unquote normal, what's in the mainstream. And it actually fascinates me. It actually fascinates me because, like I said, what's the mainstream say? What is the norm? It's like, get a place to stay, you know, go out and date, work, all of that to keep everything going. But you have some people who consciously are outside of that, you know. Shoot, even doing stuff like this, probably outside the norm when people started uploading videos and stuff. When these platforms came about, it's probably outside the norm. It isn't, and even then, you still have a lot of people, no, they don't make their living this way. Because indeed, what I do can be considered outside of the norm. Most people aren't online doing this. You got a lot, and especially making money with it. You know? But there's always something, and you know, it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating because I have 1,000 jobs and I've been in that position. I've been in that position before, you know, but there's just so much. It's just something to think about. It's something to think about. You don't have that regular job. You might practice a different spiritual path. You know, it could be a lot of things. And indeed, if you think about it, if you think about some of the stuff, like I've talked about the sexual shadow world, one aspect is, one aspect out of many, like many men and women who actually make their money, I'll say sexual type of services with people, sexual type, like you have some professional dominatrix out there. You know, you have men and women. They actually, you know, they'll practice like an advanced level sacred sexuality tantra with somebody and they're getting paid. Basically, they're actually doing sex work, but they'll say, oh, this is tantra, or they're doing something special. You know, doing something maybe with the fetish community and all of that. Yet they're making money doing it, and it's very much outside the norm. It's very much outside the norm. And it's, you know what, it's just fascinating. It's just fascinating because, you know, like I said, the narrative. You go to school, you know, you come out of school, you go to more school, or you get a job, you know, you get married, or it's tough these days for that, but, you know, it's still expected. You know, have the children, keep it going, just keep it flowing. And it's very important, but you get some people just outside of that. And it's interesting to me because, trust me, just doing what I do, being an entrepreneur and everything, oh, I've met tons of them. You know, I got friends, I ain't gonna say acquaintances, friends who are doing a lot of sex work. You know, it might just be just talking to some guys on the phone. Seriously, you'd be surprised. But they're making money doing it. Or like video models, or shoot, OnlyFans. That's kind of outside of it, stuff like that. You know, just doing videos, just showing your picture. Shoot, you got some people, it's unfortunate you got some hustlers with it. You know, like you get hit up on some of these social media platforms, pretty woman, hello, and all friendly. All of a sudden they need money for something. Yeah, all of it's not righteous in my view, but it's still outside the norm. It's something to think about, though. It's something to think about. So anyway, that's all I got for today. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.